Margaret Wilson, a 70-year-old retired literature teacher, had spent decades living quietly in her small countryside home. A house filled with memories, silence, and the books that shaped her life. She had lost her husband years earlier and had lived alone ever since. Her appearance was simple, her lifestyle modest, and her habits unassuming. Everyone believed Margaret was just an ordinary elderly woman living an ordinary life, but no one knew the truth she had been hiding for years. A significant fortune inherited from her parents and doubled through smart investments. She owned land that had skyrocketed in value, 3 rental properties, investment accounts, and a financial portfolio known only to her and her lawyer. She kept her wealth private because she feared the day her own family might start seeing her as a bank instead of a mother. Unfortunately, the fear she carried quietly for years was exactly what was about to happen. Her son, Daniel Wilson, a 38-year-old man with an average job, lived far beyond his financial means. He and his wife, Clarissa, were addicted to luxury, designer clothes, a fancy house, new phones, expensive dinners. Their life looked glamorous on the outside, but behind the scenes they were drowning in debt, juggling loans, and surviving through credit. Margaret had been supporting them for years without their knowledge. She quietly paid their rent, covered school fees, and once even sent a large anonymous transfer to save Daniel from losing his job. Much of their engagement ceremony had also been financed by her. She helped them out of love, but her kindness had consequences. It made Daniel and Clarissa entitled and ungrateful. Clarissa's attitude gradually shifted. She stopped hiding her disdain. She often commented, "Margaret should go to a senior home. That old cottage is wasted on her." Or, "If Daniel could get that house, half our problems would disappear." One evening after a visit, Margaret overheard Clarissa angrily whispering, "We won't have a future until that old woman gives us her house. Daniel, you have to convince her." That was the night Margaret realized the truth. Behind the polite smiles, greed was festering. Weeks later, her lawyer Ryan delivered shocking news. Daniel and Clarissa were gathering documents to have Margaret legally declared mentally incompetent. If they succeeded, they would become her legal guardians, with full access to her bank accounts, properties, and assets. This wasn't just disrespect. This was betrayal. With Ryan's help, Margaret created a plan. First, she cut off all financial support. Second, she transferred her assets into a private trust that only she could access. Third, she collected evidence: messages, threats, financial records. And finally, she prepared for the moment when everything would be revealed: Daniel and Clarissa's wedding day. The wedding hall was filled with glamorous guests, expensive outfits, and artificial smiles. Margaret walked in wearing her usual simple dress and an old shawl. Clarissa looked at her with disgust and muttered, "At least you've finally accepted that being poor isn't a crime." Margaret simply smiled. When a guest finished their speech, Margaret calmly stepped toward the microphone. The hall fell silent. Everyone assumed she was about to give a heartfelt blessing. Instead, she revealed the truth. She explained how she had paid for their engagement ceremony, their rent, their debts, and even saved them from financial disaster, only to learn that they were plotting to take her home and assets by declaring her incompetent. She exposed their massive debt and showed the legal documents that proved everything. Shock spread across the room. Daniel covered his face in shame. Clarissa began screaming in denial. But it was too late. Their masks had shattered in front of everyone. Videos of the moment spread online that same night. Margaret suddenly became the voice of thousands of seniors who had been manipulated or financially abused. News channels invited her. Lawyers volunteered to support her. Messages of gratitude poured in. Margaret transformed from a quiet elderly woman into a symbol of dignity and justice. The court later ruled firmly in her favor. Daniel and Clarissa lost all rights to her assets, faced heavy fines, and were pushed to the edge of bankruptcy. Margaret kept her home, her wealth, and, most importantly, her peace. But she didn't stop there. She founded the Elders' Voice Foundation, which within a year rescued more than 350 seniors from financial and emotional exploitation. She even wrote a best-selling book titled When Silence Ends, sharing her story to inspire others to protect themselves. Margaret's greatest realization was that you don't always owe loyalty to people who harm you. Sometimes letting go is the only way to save yourself. Family isn't defined by blood, it's defined by respect. And now it's your turn to take action. If you're watching this, I want to thank you for staying with me until this point. Your support truly matters. And if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe so you never miss the powerful stories coming next. And finally, your voice matters too. If you've ever experienced betrayal, manipulation, or emotional abuse from someone close to you, share your story in the comment section below. Your words might be exactly what someone else out there needs to hear.